It's a pleasure to introduce Dr. Rona Novick to speak tonight. I want to start with a public mazel tov on the birth and Brit Milah for most recent grandchild Leah and Hara that God heard in Israel and enabled us to invite her to speak here tonight. Rona is a clinical psychologist and is the dean of the Azrieli school and is going to speak to us, is generally known as an expert on bullying actually, but our topic tonight, more in the times that we're in right now, is maintaining resilience in ourselves and our children during times of conflict.
Thank you so much. And I have the specifically related to Dover and Michal, so it's nice to share family times. I wish I said to someone earlier, I wish I was here talking about bullying or happiness or one of my other topics and not about the matzav that we find ourselves in. But here we are. And if we ever doubted that Judaism is a religion of resilience, first of all, just open Sefer Bereshit. There's plenty of challenge. And in the past week, just looking at the Parsha Chayesara, it is a Parsha that focuses on strength even at a time of loss. Rabbi Sachs comments that in spite of the sorrow that Abraham feels on the loss of Sarah, his wife, for so many years, that he does not succumb to sorrow and pain, that after Abraham takes time to mourn, he rises and takes actions that secure the Jewish future. He purchases land in Israel so that his wife can be buried, and he sends his servant Eliezer to find a wife for Yitzchak so the Jewish family can grow. This is Abraham's legacy, turning loss into an opportunity to build the future. These are Rabbi Sachs's words. Nobody says it better than him. Abraham's strength is apparent throughout the history of the Jewish people, where resilience has been the response to innumerable tragedies that would have devastated other nations beyond any hope of recovery. So, first, a caveat. Yes, I'm a psychologist. Yes, I'm the dean of the Azrieli Graduate School of Jewish Education at Yeshiva University, but I have to tell you, you are all more qualified than me to give this talk tonight. You are experts in what you're living through, and I'm humbled by what you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. Many of you, I've been around the country for the past 3 weeks, talking to educators, talking to families, talking to teenagers, and I am astounded by the strength that I see in the face of unbelievable challenge. That being said, I'm going to try to offer some tools today, none of which are magic bullets. Bad choice of words. None of them are magic. None of them are going to work like that, but I hope you'll take away something tonight that you find helpful. One of the things we all first need to accept is that we are living at a time of extraordinary, not only extraordinary difficulty, but extraordinary uncertainty. We do not know what tonight or tomorrow or the next day brings. And we don't know how many days we won't know what the next day brings. It isn't a finite situation. When somebody, chas v'shalom, has surgery, they know, I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna have the procedure on this day, and then here's the recovery. And once I pass the surgery, and once I'm in rehab, here's what I can expect. There's some uncertainty, but there's some predictability. Our current situation is so challenging because, add to the challenge, the unbelievable degree of uncertainty that we have to live with. Now, I hope you find it reassuring to hear that whatever it is you are feeling or experiencing, it's totally normal. Anybody here who's overeating? Anybody here who is having problems with their appetite and isn't eating? Oh gosh, we're all here. Okay. Anybody here who's having trouble sleeping? Anybody here who's oversleeping, just wants to spend the day on the couch, can't get up, can't get out of bed in the morning? It's all normal. And the reason it's normal is that we are not in post-traumatic stress land. We're not post. We are living in traumatic stress. And in traumatic stress, human beings all respond in their unique ways, and those ways are normal, adaptive ways of dealing with an abnormal situation. Now, we'll get to some things that are healthier and some things that are less healthy so that we can be resilient, we can help our children Whether they're 2 or 12 or 22, be resilient. But for the most part, all of our responses fall within the realm of normal responses to an abnormal situation. It also means, I didn't ask this, but anybody here having a little bit of trouble concentrating? Anybody feels that their work, whether it's your schoolwork or your parenting work or your being nice to your spouse work, is a little rough around the edges these days, right? We are not at our peak performance levels, and we have to forgive ourselves about that. At the university where I work, and I'm teaching graduate students who themselves are professional educators, we had meetings at the beginning of the outbreak of the war to discuss that we had to be a little bit more fluid and flexible about deadlines, about grading, about what we could expect from students given what was on their plate. Many of our students have family here, or were leaving school there in order to come here and serve. So we could not have the normal expectations and just, say, well, but you have to give 100%. We don't all have 100% to give at this point, and that's normal. That being said, that we're gonna forgive ourselves, we're gonna say, okay, this is all normal. It's a little too warm in here for this. That being said, that it's normal, what can we do to leverage, to use our bodies, our minds, our souls, and our behavior, our actions, to be as resilient as possible? Now, a word about what resilience means, especially since I'm here in the land of palm trees. I come from the northeast area of the United States, where we have oaks and sycamore and maple trees. They have really fat trunks. They look really strong. You know what happens to them in a big storm? They topple. They break. Huge sections of them, their whole trunk splits in half. They can't withstand the power of a storm. Rain and wind will do it to them. What happens to a palm tree? Also in the US, we always see the hurricane season, we see the pictures of palm trees. Palm trees in Florida. They bend. Palm trees will almost turn into an upside down U in a high wind, but when the storm is over, they come back. They bounce back. That's what resilience is. Resilience is not that I go through everything totally strong and totally competent and capable. It's that I bend under the weight of stress, but I recover. I find a way to come back to myself. So let's start with our bodies. I've already mentioned 2 things that we're not doing well that we could do better. Food, what we eat, and sleep. We forget in times of stress that our bodies are physical machines, and they need fuel. And that fuel, as much as I don't like saying this, that fuel is not chocolate. That fuel is not complex carbohydrates. That fuel includes, I like to walk around, so maybe we'll just do this, and then I can walk around. Is that okay? Then you can hear me better? I'm not good at standing still when I speak. Okay, so you need to think about where is the protein in your diet, where are you getting things that are going to nourish you, and notice everybody is unique. I do not believe there's one diet fits all, but notice if there are foods or times when you eat and right after it you feel down, you feel lethargic, you lose your energy, then you need to limit that food and find the foods that fuel you and find what gives you a burst of energy and gets you going. Needless to say, what we put in our bodies makes a difference. Making healthy choices makes a difference, and not self-soothing or medicating with drugs, alcohol, or chocolate is not the best idea. In moderation, everything in moderation. Sleep. All of the research suggests that in general, adults are not getting enough sleep. Adults are not getting the sleep that we need for our bodies to function at their peak. Teenagers are also not getting enough sleep. One of the things I thought about recently, as I'm sleeping, obviously, as we all are, with a phone nearby, so that if, chas v'shalom, there's a siren, we hear, we get our alert going off on our phone, is the research had suggested that the best way to improve your sleep was to get the phone out of the bedroom. You know, to keep the research has suggested that the light, the type of light that phones and computers give off, stimulates areas of the brain that make falling asleep harder. So limiting phone time and screen time before bed is generally better for you. But now we all need to have access to devices that will keep us safe. So it's a bit of a conundrum. But think about what you can do to make your sleep richer and better. And the last physical thing I want to mention before I get to some exercises we can actually all do, we'll do some together and you can take them home with you, is the role of exercise. Physical exercise, even something as minimal as 15 to 20 minutes of fairly intense, strenuous exercise 3 times a week is enough to release endorphins, which are the brain's natural stress busters. All we need is a little bit of exercise. Now, I'm so bad at this. Only my grandson can get me to do my Zumba class because he does it with me and it's hilarious. Watch a 4-year-old try to do Zumba. So discoordinated. He can't get the feet to go fast enough with the calypso beat. It's hilarious, and that's what gets you motivated. But find what will motivate you to move more, to not be sedentary, to get up and about, because exercise is a stress buster. It is very common in times of intense trauma and intense uncertainty that we can have experiences that literally feel out of body. That people say, I don't feel grounded. I don't know whether I'm coming or going. You have this, by the way, all of us have had this experience sometimes when you wake up from a very deep sleep and you're like, what day is it? Where am I? Is it Shabbat? Should I turn on the light? No, I can't touch. What is it? What day is today? Sometimes it happens when you fly, you have jet lag, you're disoriented. But when we're in intense trauma, that happens more often than not. And one of the psychological techniques that's very simple, that's been found to be extraordinarily helpful in trauma, a group of techniques actually, that's called grounding. And it simply means getting ourselves back in touch with our physical body. So I'm going to give you 3 different examples of ways you can ground yourself. And by the way, you could do this, no one will even know you're doing it when you do it. You can do it in your classes, teenagers. You can do it while you're making dinner, moms. You can do it at work, dads, or moms at work, or dads making dinner. Let's not be gender role specific here. The first technique is called chair grounding, and it's really simple. You can do it in these chairs, but it's best in a chair that has arms and armrests. And all you do is sitting in your chair, do it now. I won't even know you're doing it. But take note of every part of your body that is making contact with either the floor or the chair. You should notice your feet, your thighs, back part of your thighs, your back, perhaps if you're sitting back, your upper back, your shoulders. Notice every part. If you had arms, you would notice the arms making contact with the chair. The simple act of taking a moment and noticing where your body is in space promotes relaxation and grounding. And if you want to emphasize and deepen that grounding, then do this exercise with both feet on the floor and imagine actually taking a piece of imaginary chalk and drawing it around your footprints. Literally placing yourself on earth. Placing yourself in this moment in time, right in this place, grounded in the chair. That's a simple grounding exercise. You can do it anywhere, and by the way, you can teach your children to do it. And it's a lovely kind of moment of just mental focus on nothing other than what does my body feel and where am I? Another very simple grounding exercise is called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So sitting in a chair, or lying in my bed, or standing in the kitchen or in the garden, think of 5 things. Look around yourself. What are 5 things I see? What are 4 things I can feel that are connected to my body? I feel my skirt on my legs. I feel my neck piece here. I feel the microphone in my hands. What are 4 things I feel? What are 3 things I hear? What are 2 things I smell? And what's 1 thing I taste? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Again, you can do it anywhere. We can teach children to do it, and it's a moment of focus and mindfulness and builds relaxation and groundedness. The last physical thing I want to talk about is the most simple. We do it without thinking, but we do it wrong, and that's breathing. I want everyone to put 1 hand on your chest and 1 hand, your other hand, on your tummy. And I want you to take 2 deep breaths. And I want you to notice on the second one, which hand is moving more. Okay, I see it already. If your shoulders are moving more, you're breathing wrong. When we get anxious, we breathe up here. Oh my gosh, oh my God. Women who've done Lamas, it's, that shallow chest breathing. It's not good for oxygenating the brain. It doesn't get enough oxygen into the bloodstream. And what happens when we're anxious is we starve our brain of oxygen. We want to belly breathe. We want to take deep breaths from our diaphragm, pushing out our stomach, filling up our whole chest cavity. And here's another number for you, 4, 7, 8, is good, relaxing breathing. In through your nose for a count of 4, hold it for 7, and release it through your mouth for 8 slow counts. 4, 7, 8, breathe in. If you want to teach little children how to do diaphragmatic breathing, have them lay on the ground, it's great, and put a book on their belly. Not an encyclopedia, or a concordance, or a Chumash with Rashi, something skinny, and tell them that they have to take in a deep breath and make the book on their belly move up and down. And that's a great way to teach them how to do calm breathing. And when you're anxious, again, privately, personally, no one needs to know you're doing it. But when you're anxious, all you have to do is put a hand here and make sure that belly is going in and out. Or put a hand here and make sure this is not happening. Because that's not the best breath for relaxation. So those are some things we can do to ground our bodies and relax our bodies. But I don't know about you, even once the body is relaxed, this is still working. And some of us in the room are old enough when I say the expression that sometimes you get a thought in your head, and particularly in uncertain times, it's a thought that's anxiety producing or depressive, it's negative, and it's like a broken record. It is stuck in the groove, playing over and over and over again. Now here's the wonderful thing. I learned this quite by accident years ago when I was treating a Hindu patient at the medical center that I was working at the time. And she told me that the thoughts that were in her head were karma, and that she believed that she could not have any control over her thinking. And I thought, what a bracha, that in Jewish thought we understand that we control our mental real estate. We have the notion of kavanah, of intent, that we put our minds where we want them. We put our focus where we want it. My colleague, Dr. Pukovitz, says that happiness, simcha, comes from the same roots, the same combination of Hebrew letters as sim moach, as where do you put your brain? You put your brain focused on the right thing, you can be happy. You put your brain focused on only worry, you're not going to be so happy. You're going to increase your anxiety. We have limited real estate up here. We decide, what are we going to give that prime real estate? What are we going to let into our minds? Now, when we have worrisome, challenging thoughts about uncertain situations, I would like to suggest that we have to ask ourselves 2 questions. And if either of those, the answer to those questions is no, then we need to do mental housekeeping. The first question is this thought valid? Now, most of the time, The answer to that question is yes, or at least possible. Most of our worries are not, I believe little green men are going to come storm into my kitchen tomorrow. Most of them are much more reasonably valid and based on the matzav in a real way. And they're real concerns about my children, my family, my country, my world. So I can't answer no to that question. So I have to go to the second question. Is holding on to this thought, is allowing it to play in the broken record or update it on my Siri playlist or whatever you use nowadays. I'm so non-technologically savvy. Allowing it to play over and over and over again, is it making me feel better? Is it helping me make good choices? Is it keeping me safe? Is it making me healthy? And more often than not, the answer to that question is going to be no. No, it's keeping me stuck. It's got me frozen, I'm paralyzed, and I feel terrible. So if the answer to that second question is no, then you have to do mental housekeeping, and what do? What do you do when there are ideas in your head that you don't want to be taking up all of that prime real estate? So, Christopher Reeve, Superman, after he suffered his tragic accident and became a quadriplegic, said on many interviews that he started every day with 20 minutes of wallowing in self-pity. He used a technique called relegation. He relegated his negative thinking to 20 minutes in the morning. It was part of his routine: shower, brush your teeth, self-pity, wallowed. But after 20 minutes, it was done, and he went about his day. He said, I can't live my life carrying that around with me all the time. I need a place to put it. And we can also, I've worked with young children who, when they have ideas that they want to get rid of, well, I'll say, where do you want to, if you could take that idea and put it somewhere that it wouldn't bother you, where would you put it? What would you put it in? And I've had kids throw it in the garbage, have it run over by a steamroller, have it thrown out in the junkyard, buried by mounds of junk, have it under their bed, tied up in string in a lockbox that nobody has the key to. Whatever image helps young children, whatever image helps us say, I'm relegating this, I'm not eliminating it, we can't. These are reasonable worries, but saying there's a place and time for it, and then I'm going to move on. That won't always work. Another tool or technique is distraction. I don't know if any of you had a grandma who said to you, as my grandma did, think happy thoughts. Just think happy thoughts. That doesn't work, because my negative thoughts are much more potent and compelling than a bland statement like think happy thoughts. But if you could distract me with something like a really good crossword puzzle, or a compelling, engaging activity, that might take my mind away. That might be sufficiently distracting. But it has to be something I like as much, that pulls me, that engages me as much as the worry would engage me. It can't be generic. Another tool to deal with, to do our mental housekeeping, is something called Socratic arguing. We saw an example of this when Abraham argued with Hashem about the destruction of stone. When he said, if there were 100 righteous men, are you going to destroy the city? Or what if there are only 90? What if there are only 70? What if there are only 60? We can do the reverse with Socratic reasoning. We can say, what evidence do I have that this terrible thing will 100% for sure happen? I don't have any evidence. I have a worry, but I don't have evidence. Is there a 1% chance that it won't happen? Would I maybe believe a 5% chance that it won't happen? Maybe 10, maybe 20? We can do this kind of negotiating mentally until we get to a point where we say, you know what? I really don't have any evidence. There's really just, it's a 50-50 chance. Why am I spending all my time worrying about it? The final mental housekeeping technique I want to talk about is the idea of replacing a negative thought with a positive one. The problem with that is that too often we go my grandmother's route. We say, my negative thought is, the world is terrible and it's unsafe and horrible things happen every day. And I'm going to replace that with, no, the world is lovely, unicorns and rainbows and everything's nice. And my brain will totally reject it. My brain will say, are you crazy? That is not any way going to nullify your earlier thought. We need a reasonable alternative mantra, thought, that we say over and over and over in our head. And that thought may be, lots of people are working very hard to keep us safe. That may be my mantra. That may be what I tell myself every day, instead of, oh my gosh, doom and gloom, I can only think of doom. Lots of people are doing miraculous things to keep us safe. That's a reasonable statement that my brain will accept. It's not saying, and there's a guarantee, everything will be fine. There's no guarantees. We know there's no guarantees. If we knew there were guarantees, we wouldn't be here tonight. I would have nothing to talk about. The last thing I want to say about what happens mentally is that one of the things that we lose our ability to do in times of uncertainty is we think that we can't find reassurance. We think that we can't reassure ourselves, and we think we can't reassure others. I first experienced this in New York after 9/11, when little children would ask their parents, you coming home for dinner? And their parents would say, I don't know. And you can't do that to little children. What you say to little children is, mommy loves to have dinner with you. As long as there's not too much traffic and everything goes well, we'll be home just like I always am dinner time, because mommy loves to be with you for dinner. We have to find the words to reassure ourselves, to reassure others, and we have what to reassure ourselves about. There are things that stay the same. I tell the story all the time where we are in Yerushalayim. We drive past almost every night on our way home a katzefet, ice cream store. Well, I don't know, the people who are out there eating ice cream, there are dozens of them lined up around the block. Some things never change. Ice cream will always be busy in Yerushalayim on a warm day. Like, I can guarantee you that when I drive by tonight, it's going to be busy. I just know. So there's certain things that I can count on that are unchangeable. You can't make it up. The first children's book I got published was exactly about this topic. It's about how you offer reassurance in trying times. And it was published on April Fool's Day in the midst of a global pandemic. It's called Mommy, Can You Stop the Rain? To which my eldest granddaughter told me when she saw the title, Safdie, you know that only Hashem stops rain? Like, why'd you write the book? But in the book, Mommy can't stop the rain, but Mommy can make cupcakes with you to distract you. And Daddy can sing you songs when the thunder is loud. There are acts of reassurance that we can provide for ourselves, for our spouses, for our family, for our children, even though we can't answer the big question, when is this going to be done? Is everybody going to be safe? We can't answer that, but there are many questions we can answer, and there's lots of reassurance we can give. Okay, we've talked about bodies, we've talked about minds. Now I want to talk about our souls, our Yiddish neshama, our Jewish component. And I love when I get to this part, because when I was in graduate school, I don't want to say what year it was, because it's ancient history, but I had a professor who offered, when I told him that I couldn't be at his Friday night event in the town over from where I lived, because I'm a Shabbat observer, he offered in a few sessions to cure me of my archaic belief system. I love that I'm now talking about not only in a shul the role of our neshamas, but I'm giving grand rounds to medical professionals about the role of spirituality and healing. Our Jewish soul is the most incredible weapon that we have. And by the way, not just Jewish, but being a spiritual person, the research is clear. Pray, you're healthier. Belong to a shul, you're healthier. You live longer than people who are not spiritual and religious. There are studies after studies after studies about how much our emunah, our faith, our belief in something bigger than ourselves, not only grounds us, but allows us to deal with more of life's challenges in healthy and wonderful ways. There are two major components of our religious lifestyle that particularly promote resilience. They're the two G's, generosity and gratitude. When I spoke on Shabbat about this topic, one of the women said, it's like the Chesed game show. Before people even post on WhatsApp, I need, somebody's buzzed in. I said, it's like, I'll take baking challah for 200, Alex. You know, it's like people literally, I see a WhatsApp, can we cook for the Lone Soldier Center near me? And I go into the Google Doc. I read the WhatsApp, I go to the Google Doc, it's full. How do people fill it before I could get there? Like, it's people's level of chesed, both here and abroad. People's level of generosity is astounding. It's just absolutely exquisite and astounding. And we know that we give not only because people need us, we give because we need to give. A study was done, you'll know how old it is because used $50, and $50 isn't so much anymore. They gave people $50, and they measured after they gave you $50, were you happier? Did you feel better? And in fact, you did. And they measured a month after, and 2 months after, and 3 months after, and after a month, any happiness you got from your $50 was long gone. So they repeated the study. This time they gave people the same $50, but with a new instruction. You cannot spend it on yourself. You must use this $50 to give someone a gift, to take someone somewhere, buy something for someone, donate it, but you can't spend it on yourself. They got exactly the same boost in their happiness as the people who got $50 for themselves. The difference? It lasted 2-3 months. It lasted longer. When we give, we get. And all of our notions of chesed and of community, responsibility for each other, Kol Yisrael, Arevim Zeh Lazeh, all of it fuels us. All of it helps us get through difficult times. And then there's gratitude. We are the people of Hakarat HaTov. We wake up in the morning, Moda'ani, we thank Hashem for trusting us with another day, for gifting us with another day. And we thank Hashem every time we put something in our mouths and every time we see something beautiful. And we are constantly acknowledging God's presence and His gifts in our life. We are grateful people. Again, psychology research suggests that gratitude fuels happiness and strength and resilience. It turns out that it's nice that we say it in our davening and in our tefillot. It's nice that we think it in our head. Oh, I'm so thankful my children are well today, or they looked at me nicely. They didn't say I'm the worst ema ever. That's great, it's a good day. But it turns out that the research says that the act of writing down every day 3 things that you are thankful for is extraordinarily powerful in boosting resilience and happiness. And so I urge you, find a little corner of your shopping list, or find a place in a notebook you keep by your bed. Write 3 things down each day. Just write 3 things I'm thankful for. It makes a difference in happiness levels. The other role, the other piece of our souls that help is, I don't know how people understand our crazy world without a religious structure or a faith-based structure for it. We make meaning out of things. It's what our religion does. We are always mefarish. We're always finding out, how do I understand this? What could this mean? What is this symbolic of? What is this trying to teach me? And I don't mean in simplistic ways. I don't mean, I think sometimes we get very concrete and simplistic, and I don't mean it in that way, but I mean and part of it goes to our gratitude and our chesed, we think about, who am I supposed to be in this time? How do I want to be in this time of challenge? I want to be a giver, not a taker. I want to be a believer, not a doubter. I want to be part of this incredible nation of doers and believers. And the last part of our souls is tefillah. Tefillah is our connection to the divine. It's our ability to talk to a power that we relinquish control to, that we assume knows more than we do. And I'll tell you, that's really comforting to me, because I can't make sense out of an awful lot of what happens in the world. And so having that connection to the divine is quite, and that opportunity to talk to God is quite special in times of difficulty. Also, a ton of research on the role of prayer in particular in fostering medical wellness, not only psychological wellness. Finally, what about our actions? What is it that we do that can make us feel better? First of all, just doing feels better than sitting still. This week I called a colleague and said there was an issue I'd love his input on. I'm here in Jerusalem, he's in Jerusalem. If he has time to meet, that would be great. If not, we'll Zoom when I'm back in the States. It's not urgent. He says, tomorrow, this cafe, 11 o'clock. Okay, see you there. I meet him, and the first question I ask everyone is, are you okay? Is your family okay? Where are they? And he has 2 sons on the front. I said, you didn't need to meet. We didn't have to do this today. Like, you have enough that you're here. He said, oh no, thank you. This is the best way for me to be out of myself and doing work and normal and just talking with a colleague who I enjoy spending time with. This is great. Doing feels better than not doing. Connection feels better than loneliness. Find the people to be with. In my community, everybody's making challah, but everybody's also doing their lachris challah together. Like, people are, I'm doing it at 8 o'clock, come over to my apartment, come over to the courtyard, we're doing it together. People want to be together. They want to be singing on their pesach, they want to be part of something. It feels better. And make the phone calls, reach out to people, use social media if you do, to be connected to people near and far. Of course, we want to, in terms of our actions, avoid self-destructive actions, like self-medicating, like spending all day in bed. Just a caveat about that. I've been speaking to groups of people that many people are saying, I need it like a chesed holiday. I baked 17 chalots for, in 3 days. I've taken, I've been saying Tehillim at 4 in the morning every day, and I'm running to drive here, and I'm driving there, and it's okay if you take a week and you say, I'm putting my feet up, and I'm not engaging in that frenzied chesed this week. Just don't let it last. Everything, again, in moderation. Don't say, well, it's been a month since I got out of bed. It's okay. No, we need to do more than that. Realize that the most important category of actions that we can take are the actions that I would consider self-care. When you're flying an airplane, wherever you go, you hear the same recording. If the cabin should happen to lose air pressure, oxygen masks will drop from above. If you are traveling with people who need assistance, please affix your mask first before helping others. We are no good to our families, to our children, to our jobs, to our communities, to our shul, to our world, if we don't take care of ourselves. To our spouses, was that peanut gallery over there? Okay. Again, I was thinking about this a lot with this week's Parsha, and I happened to read Rabbi Brander wrote about how Sarah and Abraham, we think of them as communal leaders and that they're open tent and they were always welcoming others, but in fact, he writes that neither Sarah nor Abraham ever lost sight of their own needs and the needs of their Dalet Amot, of their particular family. Prior to his death, Abraham makes sure Yitzchak will continue the legacy. Sarah gifts her 3 blessings, representing the divine presence to the next generation. He closes by saying, our first forefather and first foremother, through all their public-facing efforts, nonetheless retain the capacity to invest in the well-being of their home front. So to wrap all those up in terms of self-care, I would say, I think about all of the things that challenge us and that deplete us, that make things harder. And then I think we have to equally think about what fuels you. Is it quilting? Is it a guilty serial you're watching on TV, on Netflix, or whatever the Israeli equivalent is, Amazon Prime? Is it cooking? Is it going out with friends? Is it a walk in the park? Whatever it is that fuels you, make sure that that's in the mix. I will say that, we've been here for 3 weeks now, we have 1 more week. It has been different than any of the many other times that I've been here, both for family reasons and for work reasons, and for the extended periods that I've lived here. I'm sure, like all of you, I think a lot, I cry a lot. The work I've been privileged to do is humbling. The stories I am hearing, and every one of us is a story. Every one of us is living through extraordinary days and nights and weeks. But there's something more. I've never been prouder to be a Jew, to be part of this nation. We're a resilient people. We are a nation of dreamers who make dreams happen. From Herzl, who said, "Im tirtzu, ein zo haggadah," if you will it, it's no dream. To our Hayalim who sing Am Yisrael Chai joyfully as they go into battle. To thousands of Jews worldwide who are packing duffels, populating rallies, writing to politicians and others to make sure that our story gets told. Like many of the Parshiyot in the Torah, last week's Parsha, Vayisara, has a detailed description of Abraham's purchase of Marat HaMachpelah, of the cave for burial. Writing on Vayisara, Rabbi Sachs talks about not getting lost in the details. He says Judaism is a religion of details, but we miss the point if we do not sometimes step back and see the larger picture. And I have to say, I so miss Rabbi Sachs's voice in these days. It's one of those gedolim that you just think, what would he be doing and how would he help? There was a beautiful video, by the way, by his daughter, talking about exactly that. He says, to be a Jew is to be an agent of hope in a world serially threatened by despair. Every ritual, every mitzvah, every syllable of the Jewish story, every element of Jewish law is a protest against escapism, resignation, or the blind acceptance of fate. Judaism is a sustained struggle, the greatest ever known, against the world that is, in the name of the world that could be, should be, but is not yet. There is no more challenging vocation. Throughout history, when human beings have sought hope, they have found it in the Jewish story. Judaism is the religion, and Israel, the home of hope. Thank you all so much. I'll be happy to take your questions and your comments. Thank you for all you are doing and for your hope. Questions?
What comment? That was amazing, thank you.
But everybody's good, right? So you have no questions. We're going home, we're going to ground ourselves, we're going to do some relax. By the way, there are endless resources online for grounding exercises, for relaxation exercises, for breathing exercises. Play around, find something that works for you and use it. And keep in mind that no tool or technique, how many people in the room drive? How many people know how to drive? So driving for you now is automatic. If I asked you, what are the first 7 things you do when you drive your car? You'd have to really think about it, because it's overlearned, it's automatic, you do it without thinking. But you didn't first get into your car on Route 1 in rush hour and drive on the 1. You did it in a parking lot. And then you learned your tools and techniques. So it's the same. You can't say, oh my gosh, I'm a wreck, so I'm going to watch that relaxation tape and do relaxation now. That's not the time to learn relaxation. The time to learn relaxation is when you're not a wreck, get good at it, and then you can use it when you're a wreck. But first you have to get good at it. And it takes practice. These tools and techniques do take practice to get good at them. Yes.
Okay, so what about as a parent, if you have a child who's afraid of something that given the current situation is fearful, and you can't come? So for example, if you have a kid who, when they go to bed at night, says something like, how do I know the Arabs are not gonna come and break into our house? What are some of the things that you found are helpful? Because I think the answer at this point is, it's possible.
Right.
We
Right.
just
But
have to-
that's the point where, you know, here's my hilarious, extraordinary, you know, exaggerated answer. If your child said, they're extraterrestrials who live 3 galaxies away, who just happen to have finished their trip to Earth, and tomorrow they're coming to beam me up. Okay, I don't know, Shlomis, it's possible. Do I know whether there are other forms of life? I don't know, it's possible. But it's not likely. This is more likely than extraterrestrials, but I think we focus on what is the reassurance we can give. We have good locks on our doors. We live in a place that's being carefully watched. There are a lot of, Mr. Rogers had wonderful advice when he said, always look for the helpers. Our children growing up here in Eretz Yisrael are acculturated to seeing Chayalim as helpers, to seeing that they're protecting us, that there are posts here and that there are posts there. And there are a lot of Chayalim who are looking out for anyone who's trying to do anything wrong. And they're being extra specially careful. And mommy and daddy are watching very carefully. Abadima, we're keeping the house very safe. And on our phone, we get alerts that tell us if there's anything we need to worry about. So we know that there's nothing in Beit Shemesh that we need to worry about right now. So I think with young children also, they don't understand distance. They don't understand time lags. So something that happened on October 7th it might as well have happened yesterday. Something that happened 300 miles away might as well have been in their next, in their backyard. They don't understand the geography here. And one of the things that's also striking is for a relatively small country right now, geography matters an awful lot. I mean, when's the last time you had a siren in Beit Shemesh? We've been in Jerusalem 3 weeks, one. But if I was in Sderot, it would be a different story. If I was in the north, if I was in Tel Aviv, it would be a different story. So geography and even very fine lines of geography matter now. Our children don't know. We can help them understand that there are parts of the country that are at much greater risk than we are right here where we are.
So can I ask a follow-up to that?
Sure.
So if you have a child who's fearful, who then says, so can I sleep in your bed? You keep me safe. Or, when I wake up in the middle of the night, can I go watch television? It distracts me. Meaning, at what point do we allow those coping skills, which are not age appropriate anymore, sort of come in, or are we sort of sticking to?
It's a really, really good question. And this goes to, when I began saying we have to forgive ourselves for being imperfect right now and not being our best selves, and we have to forgive our children also. But if we don't draw a line, they're going to be in our beds forever. This will not be a temporary, this will be, every night at 2, I'm watching Paw Patrol. I've got my Nintendo going, So I think we have to set parameters and say, we could do that tonight. 2 things. We could do that tonight to help you. And then in the morning, when you're calm, let's think about other things we could do when you're upset, because we can't do it after tonight. So I would set parameters. I would also be thinking about, what else, I would almost always recommend to a parent, if it's possible, you go to the child's room rather than they come to yours. Because you can leave. Once they're in your room, that's it. That's it. You fall asleep, they're there. You've now started that cycle if you don't want it. There are some people who love the family bed and everyone's all happy together, fine. But if you don't want everybody in the room together, be careful about those parameters. By the same token, children here of many ages and in many geographic regions, if you think about it, had no structure from before Sukkot until some of them still have no structure, have not had their routine. And we know One of the things that helps in trauma is routine. When there's, and Israel knows this very, very well, and usually does this extraordinarily better than any place in the world that I know of, they erase all evidence. If there's a bombing attack, they clean the street immediately and the traffic opens and everybody goes. And there won't be 80 wreaths and 40, teddy bears and in a place where an attack happened. They erase all evidence very quickly and back to business as usual. All over the world, when schools have horrific, traumatic events, first thing they want to do, get the kids back in school, get them back in class, get them back to their routine. Unfortunately, that's not been possible here. And in some cases, it is still not possible. And it's going to be a very big issue. I don't know. I know the government is working on various strategies and various ideas and various plans, but for some kids, it's a real problem. It's a problem for evacuee families, but it's also a problem for some of the demographics where teachers are not available because they're serving.
So as a nation, isn't this expensive resilience a little bit of a problem as well?
Say again?
The fact that we're so resilient makes us get to moments like this where we say resilience ends here. The fact that we clean up so quick. The
Yeah.
fact that we're doing the business things.
Right.
So this added resilience doesn't always work out.
Right. Well, again, I could not in a million years solve this geopolitical problem. No way. But you make an interesting point that, has this nation gotten used to living with so much that it could have drawn a line earlier or sooner, or I don't know. And I have neither a crystal ball nor can I rewrite history, so I don't know which would have gotten us in a different place. I also think that kind of thinking, I could go down a rabbit hole with that kind of thinking of what if this, what if that, what if it had been different, what if it doesn't get me anywhere. This is where I try to stay focused on, this is where we find ourselves, how do we go forward?
No, but it also allows me to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Anything that's true doesn't put me down. It allows me to
Absolutely.
be vulnerable, because if I'm vulnerable, I know what my limits are, and I don't allow myself
To be,
push
yeah,
the limits.
push to your past your limits. Great.